everyone. I am pleased to welcome tonight to this presentation Catherine Berry, and she is here on behalf of Elementary Literacy. It's a nonprofit group that uses proven programming to help close the literacy gap. It's a program that gives struggling readers strategies to make real progress and gain confidence and pride. So we're so very excited to hear from Catherine tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm really grateful that you thought this was an important thing to talk about. And so, as you said, my name's Catherine, and I worked for the organization for about 9 years, and I taught for a couple years before that. And so I've seen the organization through a lot of changes, and the most changes have happened over the past couple of years. So I'm really excited to talk about those changes today. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are, about what we do, why we do the programming that we do and the work that we do, and how you can help or how we can help you, depending on where you are in life and what if you have a child who is struggling with reading, or if you wanted to help a child in need. So so I can start off by talking a little bit about who we are. And as Julie mentioned, we're a nonprofit. We use proven programming and research-based approaches. That's a main focus of ours, especially over the past few years. But our goal has always been to support schools and teachers and districts and the department as well. And so our executive director has been at the helm for 3 years, or over 3 years. Her name is Julie Smith. Julie, are you able to get the presentation up? I'm not seeing it, but maybe other people are. I'm sorry.
No, we're not.
Okay.
So I do apologize for that. I thought it was showing. One moment, please.
Great. Okay. And then, yeah, that's perfect. Okay.
Okay.
And so over the past few years, she's overseen many adaptations and innovations. And probably the most important is the development of programming based on the science of reading. And I'll get into that a little bit into the presentation. We've also partnered with the Learning Disabilities Association of New Brunswick. They do really important work with students with dyslexia and other reading disabilities, and they offer the Barton program, which I'll talk again a little bit about, and we've started to offer that as well. And then we've also moved, due to the pandemic, we moved our ELF and CLAY programming online, and that's been something we intended to be able to offer. It just happened a little bit quicker with the pandemic. So we can go to the next slide. And so I'm going to talk a little bit in this slide about what we do, and then I'll get into some of our programs in a little bit more depth. But these are the programs, like our main programs, the Barton Reading and Spelling Program. And as I said, this program is really well suited for those students with learning disabilities. They might have dyslexia or another learning disability. And so we offer the Barton program in ASDS and ASDN, and then the Learning Disabilities Association of New Brunswick offers it in ASDW, so our district here, and then ASDE. So we're really helping to increase access to the Barton program. And our second program that I'll talk about is called ELF at Home. And so some of you may be familiar with the ELF program, which we offered for many years. And the ELF at Home program is a completely new program. So essentially, we've scrapped the ELF program and we've started offering ELF at Home, which is now a virtual program. It's offered at no cost to second grade students across New Brunswick, offered to students in New Brunswick schools, but often it's done at home. For the most part, it's done at home. Students are screened for gaps prior to their first tutoring session, and they're screened using a QPS, which is called a quick phonics screener. And so it's a screener that focuses on phonemic and phonological awareness. And so this program is best for those students who are struggling readers. It wouldn't be best for those with severe learning disabilities. So those who are screened and are screened and are too low for the ELF at Home program, we would refer to the Barton program. And I'll talk a little bit more about I'll focus more on the ELF at Home program as we go in the presentation, because that's probably the most relevant. But it's important to know about the Barton Reading Program, that it's available, and why it's important. So I wanted to mention that. And then we also have a program, as we have since the beginning, called Le Programme Clé, and that's offered in New Brunswick French language schools. And so that's been adapted as well to the science of reading, where students complete activities with a tutor to improve phonological and phonemic awareness, and then read a story aloud with their tutor. And some other things we work on, what I'm doing primarily now is working on a vocabulary program that would be offered to students. We're just in the midst of testing that and developing it. And then we also have a number of partnerships. We work really closely with a number of different organizations like NBCC, Frontier College, Cradle to Career, the department, the districts. So that's a little bit of an overview of what we do, and then I'm going to get into the Barton program next, because I think it's important that parents and that community members are aware of the Barton program, because it really is so valuable to the kids who need it. So Barton is a reading and spelling system. It's offered across New Brunswick. We, as I said, we offer it in the northern district and in the south. And then the Learning Disabilities Association offers it in this district and in the east. So if you were interested in this kind of programming for your child, you would approach the Learning Disabilities Association, or you could ask us and we could refer you to them. And so this program is really specialized. It's one-on-one, and it's based on Orton Gillingham, which is a multi-sensory, direct, explicit, and sequential program. So it's quite intensive. It's twice a week for 45 minutes. It's 10 weeks. Sometimes it's virtual, often it's in person. And it's really well suited, as I said, to students with learning disabilities. So in each session, kids complete activities designed to improve phonological and phonemic awareness. It's a program based on the science of reading, and every student begins at the same point. Everyone begins at the first lesson and moves throughout. And there are children who are in this program for years, depending on the severity of their learning disability. But it's a really, really effective program, and we're really happy to be able to offer it to more students in New Brunswick. So ELF at Home is our new program. It's delivered, as I said, virtually. So last year was the first year that we piloted the program. We trained, paired, and supported tutors and families. Students were referred either by their parents or often it's still coming from the school as it did with our old program. It's to students in grade 2. If a student in grade 3 or grade 1 is registered for the program, we would add them to the wait list, and they might be offered another type of intervention, or they might be referred to the Barton program or private tutoring. We are only able to really offer it to grade 2 because of the need, and we're, you know, we have children on the wait list, and we're just we just have grade 2. We'd love to be able to offer it to others, is what I'm trying to say. So it's a one-on-one literacy support program. So which is similar. It's similar also to our old program in that it's 45 minutes twice weekly and for 10 weeks. But it is designed to improve phonological and phonemic awareness. And then the student reads a story aloud with their tutor in the session as well. So I'll get into it a little bit as we go, but the main difference is that it's based on the science of reading, and that it is, rather than try to cover all of the pillars of reading acquisition, we focus primarily on decoding and phonemic awareness. It's fully informed by the science of reading, and we used the scope and sequence from the University of Florida Literacy Center. And so what we found is that students were really engaged in this program. Absenteeism was low because it's offered at home, and parents are able to often watch and learn and be engaged. And the content of the lessons is very engaging. So the early indications are showing improvements for most. Other differences between Alpha at Home and our new program is almost completely scripted, structured, and sequential lessons. So students start on, let's say, if they start at the very beginning, they're starting at lesson 1A, and they move on to 1B, and then they move on to 2A. And so it follows a sequence, and that's very intentional. Students are screened, as I said, prior to their first tutoring session in phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, and then they're placed based on where they fall in that QPS. They're placed at the appropriate lesson, or maybe even a lesson before, just so that they're, they can master it and they're confident in their first lesson, but they're starting where their skills fall off. And so we can build on those skills. And the students are taught their phonemes, the sounds in a certain order, so that, and we use something called decodable readers, which are just books that are developed using a particular letter sound pattern. And so these books are really special because sounds aren't introduced before the child learns them, and so they can really build on their skills, and there's no guesswork. They're just really practicing what they learned before a new sound is introduced, and they're able to read full books, which can be challenging for kids who are struggling readers. And so our decodable readers are online as well. And I'm just going to hopefully pull up a quick video. It's hard to really explain the program. And so I'd love to just be able to show this video so that you can see our tutor, Claire, working with a student, Edwin, and it's really just clips of that lesson, but it gives a good visual of how that might work.
This is the schedule of things of what we will be doing in the lesson. So we always start with the warm-up, and then we go to work with sounds. Next, we have work with words. Fourth, we have reading, and then finally we have I Spy. Now it's time for work on sounds. Ready? So, silent E as in Pete. Now if we take the E off at the end of Pete, what would it be?
Pet.
You got it. So silent E as in cake. We have cake, cape. Would you like to try this one?
Ack.
Lake,
Lake. Bike. Hide.
hide. Yeah.
Aisle. Pile.
Pile. You got it. Nice. Sounding it out.
Bike. 3.
Bike.
Down.
3 sounds. You got it. Ready? Awesome. We're putting all the words with silent E into the first basket, and all the other words can go into the second basket. Look at the circled picture and see if you can find the word it goes with below. What vowel sound is missing? So how do you spell sled? Which word down here represents it?
SLD.
Yep. And what's the vowel that's missing?
Oh, E.
Okay, so a little bit about why we do what we do, and why did we specifically why did we scrap our old program? And the reason for that was to implement the research and development by reading specialists.
Right, I'm just closing my internet. For some reason it's playing.
Oh, welcome back, boys.
Sorry about that.
No, not at all. So we wanted to implement the research that was done by reading specialists and psychologists that's proven to help the most kids learn how to read. And so rather than try to cover all 5 pillars, we focused on the 2 early pillars of reading acquisition, and try to really develop those skills that might have been missed for whatever reason over the first couple of years of school. And so if you want to go to the next slide, it really depicts why we focus so much on a sequential structured literacy approach. And so this ladder of reading was developed by Nancy Young, and she's a well-known child-centric health assessment leader in child-centric health assessment methods. And she uses this ladder to depict the percentage of students, the percentage of children that would rely on a structured literacy approach. And so if we look at this, we can start at the top. So 5% of people can grasp reading really easily. So they're not going to require much instruction, and 35% will be able to figure it out through broad instruction and exposure. So that's 40%, but actually the majority of us, the majority of people, it's essential for us to get an understanding of the mechanics of how to read. And so that's where we feel it's most beneficial to provide a structured literacy approach, because everyone would benefit from it, because the 40 to 50% who will require it to learn how to read proficiently, and the 10 to 15% who will require it in order to learn how to read, and will also require many, many repetitions. So that's sort of our why. And another visual we use often is called it's Scarborough's reading rope, and it just shows what goes into a skilled reader, the skills that are required. And we really focus on those bottom three for the most part. Those are the skills that will become increasingly automatic once they're learned and practiced. And so they're so essential for being able to read. But once they're known, then you're flying. And that's where the real fun happens, where vocabulary and language structure and verbal reasoning, those skills become increasingly strategic. And so those are added in once you really have those initial skills. And then finally, when we look at the simple view of reading, you often hear people talking about reading comprehension and how important reading comprehension is. But this simple view of reading is a very nice visual to depict how decoding is essential for reading comprehension, because whether or not a child has a very, very high ability to understand spoken language, they might have a very broad vocabulary, but in order to be able to understand what they're reading, they need to be able to decode words really well, very automatically. And so it's the multiplication portion that really tells the story, because if you have basically zero or very low decoding skills, then your reading comprehension is going to be very poor, and vice versa. So that's where you can't just be left with decoding skills and not building language. And so the simple view of reading is just a nice way to look at it. And so you need both pieces in order to be a really skilled reader. And so I'm just going to leave us with how we can help, how you can help, and depending on where you are, you can always help us spread the word, share our work, share about the science of reading, share the programming with your friends and family. If you have a child or you know of a child that might benefit, certainly reach out to us. And then we're always looking for donations. As a nonprofit, we rely heavily on donations and on grants. And so if you're able, we'd love, we have a lovely campaign happening right now on our Facebook page that I have on the next couple of slides. And then if you're interested in volunteering, we'd love to hear from you. It's in terms of volunteering, it's very flexible. You can choose your times. It's often in the late afternoon or evening, as it's at home. And it's nice to work with families to find out the best schedule for both of you. And it's easier to reschedule than it was previously when it was at schools. It's really nice to get to know a student in the community and really make a difference in their lives. And I think I mentioned this before, but that parental supervision of tutoring is actually proving to be a really positive result of the virtual tutoring, because parents are feeling more confident with supporting their child in their reading. And so if you want to check out the holiday gift guide, it's on our Facebook page. And other than that, I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to talk to all of you, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Catherine. I have a quick question. Just for clarity, I want to understand the program. Does it really focus in on only those children who are at the grade 2 level, or how does it support like maybe K to 3?
The Alpha Home program is for the most part, we only have the capacity to help those in grade 2. So while we do, we collect registrations from K1 and grade 3, and I think even we've had some people ask about in grade 4. We just don't have the volunteer capacity to meet the needs beyond grade 2, and grade 2 was the age that we chose initially, and so we're hoping certainly to expand beyond, because we'd love to focus more or broaden our reach, basically. But at this time, across the board, we can only offer it to grade 2. Barton's different. Barton, it doesn't matter what grade you're. An adult can take Barton and really benefit.
Great, thanks for clarifying. And Catherine, can you maybe just go into a bit more detail on the training? So if I wanted to volunteer, but perhaps I was feeling a little bit apprehensive about it because I didn't know if I would qualify, if I would actually meet the need of the student. What type of training is available, and the requirements around that? Like, how long would I need to complete a training course in order to begin volunteering to support children?
Sure, that's a very good question. Training for volunteering is about an hour, sometimes a little over an hour. That's our initial training, where you go through the program, through the format, and what the actual content entails. And then we also offer, because it's virtual, we offer a tech training as well. And that's really just how to set up the meetings with your student, how to pull up our lessons and the online books. And so that's about an hour as well. And then if you need additional support in the tech portion, then we can offer that as well. But it's relatively simple once you get the hang of it. And then other than that, there's of course the criminal record check that needs to be done, as well as policy 701, which is done online. And then the requirements are like a laptop or a computer, high-speed internet access, and it's really helpful to have like a headset, but it's not necessary. Just your AirPods or earphones are helpful. And beyond that, really just an eagerness to want to help a student and to have faith in the program and how it's laid out.
Thank you. And as far as our local area is concerned and the number of volunteers, is it possible to give a number or an idea of how many volunteers may actually be required at this time? If we're thinking around, my local area, I consider that to be anywhere from Bath, Lawrenceville, Centerville. So just trying to assess the need and for myself as well, just to understand who I may be able to reach further out to and encourage some additional support. So, do we have a need here for 5, 10 volunteers? In your opinion, what would be most helpful at this time?
In my opinion, I know that Bath is in need. I know Bristol is open as well. So I think 10 to 20 volunteers would be wonderful.
Great, thank you. And is it possible, I don't know with technology, if it's possible to kind of pull up the information again within the presentation on who to reach, how to contact either you, Catherine, or the department on getting started to volunteer. So is there a site that we can show again, just to remind everybody before closing off how to actually get involved and how easy that is?
Yes, for sure. I will send the links for registering and a few additional links of some contacts and even some information videos that might be helpful too if someone has some questions they just want to go over again. Those are great suggestions.
Great, thank you.
That was really informative, Catherine. Thank you very much for taking us through that.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I apologize for the length.
And I apologize for the technical difficulties. I tried to get it quite smooth. Thanks everyone for sticking in when I had to click in the wrong spot, but we really appreciate your making the time for sharing visuals with us that can be really helpful, for sharing this important work with us so that we can consider who we might like to reach out to so they know about the program, whom we might like to reach out to encourage them to consider volunteering, or even maybe simply as being able to consider this when making our charitable donations. So thank you so much.
Thank you both. Thank you all. Sorry, I should say.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.